Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I have a pretty exciting new instrument set for Dorico. Now, do you write vocal arrangements? And do you really wish you could get more than just a weird quasi-choral ah sound? Well, here you can do this.
Took a monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off of his back, but the monkey turned around and said, "Hey, listen, Jack, straighten up and fly right."
That's right. You can actually get actual words in your Dorico playback using this synthesizer. So let's check it out. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a review and a bit of an instructional video about a new instrument I purchased called Synthesizer V. Synthesizer V is made by the company Dreamtonics, and what it does is it uses AI to generate a singing voice for the lyrics from your Dorico project. Now, if you've watched any of my videos before or talked to me in person, you know that I'm not a huge fan of AI just about anything, but in this case, it's actually a really big handy tool. To be clear, this will not replace a studio singer for your next album. Frankly speaking, it's pretty dry and somewhat robotic, but if you're making part tapes, if you're wanting to share an arrangement you did with a vocalist or a group so they kind of have a gist of how it goes with the context of the lyrics, this tool is amazing. One of the big projects that I get a lot is doing arrangements for like high school jazz bands and stuff. And they're not good enough singers to kind of realize how the melody would fit in there. So this is a way for me to actually send them something so they really actually understand how it's going to sound. When we go to the website, we're met with a friendly example of the things that the software can do. And basically, like I said, to me, this is an amazing tool for helping me get my ideas across more accurately, but also with a little less time. Because again, this is not for production. This is for me as a composer, helping me understand how does this all fit together. Now, one of the nice things about this software is to buy it once, and the software itself is relatively reasonable at $99. However, do note, the voices themselves actually cost a little bit of extra money. Now you can see they have a whole host of voices that you can download, and they're all $79 a piece. So you probably want to make really sure that you like the voice before you buy it. Me personally, I sort of like their generic voices. They have a lot of voices here that are very animated, that are kind of inspired by cartoons and other things. I like the ones that are just much more realistic, like a normal human would sing. But they also have these choir collections, which give you voices as if you were singing classical music.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
So if you've been writing pieces for classical choir, orchestra, you can actually get some voices that really sound the way you'd like them to. The other voices are mostly just solo voices.
Well, is this the real me?
So once you've purchased the software, got it downloaded and installed on your computer, it's time to integrate it into Dorico. Now, this process is actually surprisingly easy, which I thought was just amazing. So let's take a look at it. So here I have an arrangement of Straighten Up and Fly Right that I did years ago for the singer Haley Loren, and I wish I'd have had this tool back then. I think this would have made this a whole lot easier. But what I've done is I've fully notated my chart with a tempo, and I've inserted the vocal part with lyrics. Now this is really important. The software is not 100% integrated into Dorico, meaning you can't just open a project and magically it works. You do have to do a couple of very quick steps, but it's actually really easy. Now, a couple of things to note before you get started. The first is the project needs to be at least in the state where you have a tempo decided and inserted into the document. you have the lyrics written out and the vocal melody notated. The reason that you have to have these steps done is anytime we change anything musically that affects the vocal part, we're going to have to re-export this to the plugin so it can regenerate the words. Now, I was working with this earlier with an arrangement I was doing of Never Gonna Give You Up, and every time I made a change, it was very, very quick and very easy to just re-up what I was doing, but I did have to actually redo it. And so you'll want to have the project mostly finished before you worry about making these kind of playback decisions. So you can see here in the document, I have a tempo set of swing, quarter note equal 158. You can see I have all the horn parts done, and there's my vocal line with all of the lyrics notated in there. And again, that's really important because the software needs this feature. Once you've done this, what you're going to do is you're going to go under the File menu, and you're going to go down to Export, and from there you're going to export Music XML. Now, you can do it one of two ways. You can either export just the main flow, aka your score, or you could go down here and export just the voice part. Either way is really easy. I'm going to just show you how I do the whole score, because in this case, if you had multiple voice parts, then you wouldn't have to export all 4 of them at once. You'd do it in just one file. So I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the layouts and check the flows, and then I'm going to go ahead and export it to the folder where I have the project saved. Now, because I've already done this, it's going to tell me, hey, it's going to overwrite it, which is fine. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Play tab. Now, this is a new software instrument, and so when you assign it to your project, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go in and assign your voice part to this instrument. So if you haven't loaded a custom instrument before, what you're going to do is go under VST, you're going to go down to the bottom, and you're going to hit this little plus sign to add a new instrument, or you're going to take an existing instrument if your voice part has, say, already been assigned to an instrument, and you're going to change it. Now note, if you're a Note Performer user, you can't just change one instance of Note Performer because that will wipe out all of your other instruments. In that case, you'll want to create a new instrument. But because I already have a part for my voice, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this Synthesizer V here, and I'm going to go under the Dream Tonics, Synth, and here's the Synthesizer V Studio plugin, and I'm going to choose that as my instrument. Now I'm going to go back to my track inspector, and I'm going to scroll down and find my voice part, which is right here. And then I'm going to, from the list, I'm going to choose that Synthesizer V plugin. Now, because this is the only voice part in my score, channel 1 is just fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the E here to edit the instrument. Now, normally this would be blank, but because I had already preloaded the instrument, I'm going to just show you how this part works as well. You're going to go under File, and you're going to import, and you're going to import a project. And what this does is it goes looking for your Music XML that you just exported. Now you can see here I have my Straighten Up and Fly Right that I just exported from Dorico, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Open. Even if it was blank, it's going to ask you if you want to make a new project or a new track. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit a new project because I'm not trying to save anything. So if you had a blank window before, go ahead and just hit New Project and let it give you a fresh new start. Now, it is going to say, hey, do you want to save anything? And the answer is no, I don't. I'm just going to discard it. Now, this is what I was talking about. When you have the whole flow exported, it has all the different instruments from your score. The nice part about this, though, is I can just click on this all up at the top, and it'll uncheck everything, and then I'll just go down and find any vocal part I want. Had I had 2 or 3 vocal parts, I could have just clicked them like this, and I could import 3 or 4 of them at a time, which is really a big time saver because you don't need to have multiple instances of the software if you have more than one vocal part. But in this case, only one voice. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Now, before I hit import, you will see there's this remove punctuations from lyrics. And what this does is it sort of smooths back the playback. And go ahead and let it do that. I found it to work really well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import. Now, the next thing is it says it's going to import the project, and it contains short silences, and it asks me if it wants to automatically clean them up. And so far, I've just chosen OK to that, and it's worked great. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that we have our voice inserted, what we need to do is assign a singer to this track. So if you go up here under voice, this is the one we just had, and I click on it, I can choose from my list of voices. Now, I only have 3 voices right now because I just recently got the software, but I was really excited about it. So let's go ahead and use a female voice this time, and I'm going to choose Natalie. Now, it is cool. You can actually demo the voices right here. So if you want to think, I wonder if this will work, you can hit the little play button.
But if you really knew me, you'd know what it's doing to me, baby.
Or we could try Liam.
If we could break the rules.
Or Natalie.
Oh, amazing grace.
And I think Natalie sounds great. You can see it indicates the styles that it thinks this will be good for, as well as the language, EN for English, and then it has a range there. Now, this song does not have a very big range, so it'll be fine for any of these voices, but do pay attention if you were, say, adding in a super high soprano part, Liam probably couldn't sing it. But let's go ahead and choose Natalie. Now from here, it's going to render the vocals, and probably before I can finish saying this sentence, which it did, it actually got the whole thing done. It's very fast. It's actually kind of amazing how quick it does go. So from here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to the start of our project, and we're going to hit playback and see what happens.
A monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off of his back, but the monkey turned around and said, "Hey, listen, Jack."
And it's that easy. We got playback. Now, we did discover one of the small flaws here in the software, which I hope they will fix this at some point. So if anybody from the company is watching, this would be something that I would absolutely love to see in an upgrade, which is it actually won't do swing natively straight from Dorico. Dorico does the swing through playback interpolation, and because this plugin is using that exported XML, it doesn't have the swing baked in. But this is actually relatively easy to fix, and because I wouldn't really do this step before I was essentially done with all of the vocals, it's actually really easy to go in and tweak this to make it start swinging. So if we click on the E again to go back into our instrument, what we're going to do is we're going to change our grid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my grid to a triplet grid, which is going to allow me to create a swing feel. And it actually sounds really good, and it's pretty darn quick and easy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set it to my triplet grid. Then I'm going to go back to that first vocal line. Now you can see that it breaks the beats apart into 3 equal pieces. And if you're familiar with swing, you know that the basic edict of swing is you took a triplet and you combined the first 2 notes and left the third one alone, and that creates the swing feel. So that's what we're going to do. And the nice part about this is we don't actually have to touch every single note. All I need to do is grab the note that's on the downbeat and pull it over, and it will automatically shorten the second note. So buzzard here is our first word. So if I grab it and pull it, you can see it shortened the second half. So now that one is the third part of the triplet. And all I have to do is go through and pull these one at a time. Now the only thing I need to pay attention to is places where I have an alternate rhythm, say an actual triplet. So you can see so far, everything has just been regular eighth notes, but Ride in the Air was actually a triplet. And you can see each note is only a third long, which is perfect. So we'll keep going. All right, we have just one more sentence to go and we'll have this first phrase all done. Now, this is one that kind of caught me at first. This note is an offbeat note, so I needed to pull it back just a little bit so that it starts in the right place of the triplet. And again, an offbeat start note. And one final thing, you'll notice this note is very, very short. And what the instrument's going to do is it's going to clip that word off. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull it out a little bit longer so it holds it out more naturally. Now, this does not affect your notation at all, just the playback. So let's go back and see how this sounds in Dorico.
Took a monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off of his back, but the monkey turned around and said, "Hey, listen, Jack, straighten up and fly right."
Now you can see when I got from the first phrase to the second phrase, obviously I hadn't incorporated the swing, but you can see, what did that take me? About 30 seconds to do 16 bars of music. And so if I was trying to create a playback tape, I could go ahead and I could do that part, and it really wouldn't take me all that long to get the entire document done. Now the great thing about this is you can save these sessions. And so after you did all of that work, it's not like you would lose it. You could actually go back to your voice part and you could literally go in and you could save this session here, file, and then you can save to external file so that you can pull it up later so that you wouldn't have to redo all of this stuff, which again, super handy, right? Now, the voice is very, very clear and clean in the Synthesizer V, so I haven't had any real trouble hearing it. But do note that because it's down here inside of my mixer, I can add compression, EQ, reverb, or anything else I want. And in addition to that, if we go back to the plugin, I can also come in here and I can edit the voice note by note or by the whole thing. We have some pretty cool parameters over here. We can set a default preset and save a preset, so if we make changes to the voice, we can actually do that. We can come down here, we can choose the language, obviously, and then we can do this consonant strengths and durations. And what this means is it's how much that you'll get in the word. So if you want to have a really distinct dictated sound, you could up that strength and possibly the duration. Another cool feature, if you want to make it sort of sound produced and poppy, I can actually up the number of singers. So I could have 5 singers, space them apart, and then it's going to re-render, of course, but then listen to what this sounds like in playback.
Took a monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off of his back, but the monkey turned around and said, "Hey, listen, Jack."
Isn't that great? Now, in a lot of cases, I wouldn't want that ever, but it's nice to know it's there and it's easy to use. Again, the number of singers is how many duplicate voices you have, and then the spacing just pulls them apart in the stereo image. I do find that if you don't space them apart, it just kind of sounds like bad overdubbing, so definitely keep them spaced apart if you're going to do that effect. We also have these vocal modes where we can tell it how soulful we want it to be, how soft, how warm, and these are kind of parameters. So let's just crank up the soulful and see what the heck happens. Again, every time you make a change, it has to re-render, but again, 10, maybe 15 seconds. See, it's already done before I can give you that warning.
Took a monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off of his back, but the monkey turned around and said, "Hey, listen, Jack."
So again, these great controls can do a lot of things, and you'll just have to experiment with them to get the kind of performance you're looking for. There's also some parameters down here for loudness, tonal shift, and then you can choose how feminine versus how masculine presenting the voice will be, and that's what that gender slider does. We can also do tuning, and then the scale, of course, which will help the singer be more in tune per the key of the song. We can also come down by clicking on this little 8th note here to get to the note panel. And what the note panel does, it allows us to pick on one note and then have it do something with it. We also have this AI retakes, which what this does is it allows the computer to redo that note, because maybe we thought, boy, that was weird. So we could have it redo it, and then we can choose from our take folder to see what it did instead to see if we like it better. So let me highlight these 3 pitches, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have it redo the AI, and you can see I have the default take and take 1. And then let's go ahead and just try playing that back and see what it sounds like.
Listen, Jack, straighten up.
Okay, let's try that other one again. So we'll highlight those notes again, and we'll try the default take.
Listen, Jack.
So you can just decide, was it better the second time? And again, it saves these takes in this file so that you'll know you'll have them for later. There's also this phenome setting here, which if you're a real vocal aficionado and you really want to get the correct pronunciation of any single word, this is how you can do it. And you can see, if you're not familiar with this kind of typeset language, it's kind of hard to explain. But again, if you are the kind of person who really wants the exact right pronunciation, you can do it here. We also have a dictionary panel where we can add words. So if it keeps mispronouncing a word like, say, Dorico, like my iPhone used to call it Dorico, then you could add that in and put in the pronunciation so it gets it right. We also have an FX tab. And the FX tab allows us to add in things to it. One of the ones I really like is actually this room sound, which allows there to be a little bit of natural sound to the voice. So listen to what this does to the voice.
Buster took a monkey for a ride in the air. Monkey thought that everything was on the square.
It gives it a nice presence, and it makes it sound a little less like it's perfectly recorded, and adds a little bit of that niceness to it. And you can add more reflection, you can make a bigger room sound, you can also do an equalizer, a compressor, and you can add reverb right here in the software if you don't want to use a plugin.
Buster took a monkey for a ride in the air.
So these are really handy tools for sure. You can also export this performance as a file if you want to manipulate it in your DAW. And then we have links to do a script panel if you want to write a custom script for this. And you can go to the marketplace to download and try out new voices. And then we have our settings tab. Now the settings tab has a feature that I think is pretty darn amazing, and I'll show you it in action in just a second. But in here, we have some basic things about the software, checking for updates and all this other stuff. But down here under audio and MIDI, the normal setting for the software is this master combined, which means if you had 5 different vocal parts, all 5 of them are going to play back through one channel in Dorico, just like Note Performer. But if we change this to track combined, what that means is each voice will come out on an individual track in the Dorico mixer, which is amazing. It allows you to do individualized EQ, panning, all this stuff in the Dorico mixer, which is great. And so I typically use this when I have more than one voice because I have more control, and it's a little easier to set things like the pan, the reverb, and all of that other stuff. And again, in this case, there's only one voice, so it wouldn't really matter. We also have some options for how the editor works, how the recording is going to work, and then how the rendering is going to come out. And some shortcut keys if you'd like to add some custom shortcuts. Now, there's no X on this. If you just click anywhere but in the window, it will go ahead and close this for you. So let me show you how that track isolation works so that you can have more than one version of this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to open up a document that has more than one voice. Not to rickroll you too much, but here I have my arrangement of Never Gonna Give You Up, and we're gonna add in multiple voice parts to this arrangement. So you can see here I have my solo voice, and then I have 2 soprano parts, 3 alto parts, and a bass voice part. And again, like I said, we can load these in one plugin, control them all in one place, but have them come out in separate instances. So what we're going to do is go to our VST, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to hit plus. And then we are going to click on this little drop down, and we're going to click on Dreamtronics, and then the synth and the plugin. Now, again, we only have to add one instance of the plugin. Again, amazing. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to go one track at a time, and we're going to assign them to that plugin. Now, when we click on the list and assign it, you can see that we have a channel here. Now, we're going to go from top to bottom, and each one gets its own channel because that way it can use its own individual voice in the plugin. So right here, we have voice 1, and then this one is going to go down. Again, choose the plugin, but we're going to do voice 2. And then we're going to come down here. This will be voice 3. And you can see every time I do this, it's actually adding more channels to my mixer down here, which is what we want. Okay, so I have my 7 voice parts assigned. Now, real quickly, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little bit of panning here, just so the parts have a little independence and it doesn't sound all crammed together in one spot. Now, this is a bit arbitrary, but let me tell you, if everything in your project is dead center, the playback will sound pretty weird. Okay, now that we have that done, I can pick any one of these voice channels and hit the E to take myself into the mixer. Now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to come down to our settings, and we're going to go to our audio MIDI, and we're going to change this over to track combined. And then we're going to go ahead and import the XML like I did in the previous project. Now, I had already done this, so remember, before you can do this step, you do have to export your finished project as music XML. Now you can see I have my big list, but look at this. There's all my voice parts. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck, and I'm going to choose the 7 voices. Now, because they are in score order and also in MIDI order, it is now perfectly assigned, and I'll go ahead and hit import. It'll ask me that same question about removing silences, and there we go. So from here, we can just assign our voices, and let's do Liam for our lead vocal. And then, because I only have one female voice right now, I'm going to go ahead and use Natalie for these alto and soprano parts. And we'll use Kevin for the bass part. So to avoid any copyright claims, let's go ahead and run this thing over, and we're going to start playback in a section that isn't from the original recording.
Give you up. Give you up.
Never gonna give, never gonna give.
Give you up.
Never gonna give, never gonna give.
Give you up.
So you can see right there, it was that easy, and I have playback of all of my instruments. I have voices with the lyrics, and it was that simple. So what do I think about Synthesizer V? I think it's actually an incredibly handy tool, and I'm really excited to be able to utilize this to help people understand what my arrangements sound like. Again, this can be a really complicated thing when you're working with vocal music, and so this is a great way of being able to send out examples to things. Do I think this is good enough for any kind of distribution? Absolutely not. It's missing a whole lot of the human element, and I would really encourage people not to use this as, I have a great new way of putting out my next album. No, this is really more of a working tool, which is the way I'm using it, is as a working tool to help me get my music out there. Now, I know some people really like to get really hands-on, knee-deep in the AI, but I like to think of it as just another tool in my tool bag to help get my music out to real performers that much quicker. It is so simple and easy, and it does integrate with other systems, not just Dorico. And so if you want to use it in Sibelius or any other notation suite, it does work in there as well. You just have to export the MIDI XML because we need the lyrics so it can go through and assign those words to the lyrics as it's singing them. All in all, I'm really impressed. I'm really excited to make use of this over my next projects. So thanks so much for checking out the channel. Again, I'm looking to up my subscriber list, so if you think this video is pretty darn helpful, please like, maybe think about subscribing to the channel. Throw some comments down there and ask some questions. That's what I'm here for. You can also visit my website at larsenjazz.com for some of my music, as well as to ask me specific Dorico questions or take a lesson if you want. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.